Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Decide to Heal. I am your host, award-winning master life coach, Alejandra Crisafulli, and I am here with the most beautiful Tiffany Peterson. It was funny. We got on camera, y'all, and she was like, "Oh, you're so pretty." And I'm like, "Oh, you're so pretty."
Well, you are. You just glow, you little radiant, vibrant woman.
Oh, thank you. You know what? It's definitely the Holy Spirit within. It's God's presence. And I look at pictures of myself in the past, and even though I was quote unquote happy, I can see how the difference of where I was darkened in life versus now where I just he literally purified me, and I feel so pure and clean and vibrant. So it's like, it shows. It's the inside.
There's nothing like God. When people are like, "What are you doing for your skin and your glow?" It's like, it's God. It's the God glow. And you got it.
Glow, exactly. Are you struggling with self-doubt, second guessing your every move, no matter how much success that you achieve? Because just deep down, nothing you have done to heal has ever felt like enough. Do you want to quit that cycle and get coached live on Decide to Heal? Because in 45 minutes or less, I can help you identify the root cause of the problem you are dealing with and give you not just practical, but long-term changes that you can implement as soon as we're done. This is completely free of charge, and all you have to do is fill out the application in the description below. So will you take a moment to just introduce yourself, my beautiful friend, to our Decide to Heal audience here?
Well, first of all, it's so good to legit, genuinely see you and be together. And I just love who this woman is and how she shows up in the world. And it's such a joy to spend time connecting with you and the ears and eyes and so forth that receive this. We did say a prayer, just so y'all know, before we got together, of that is the intention, that if for those of you listening to this, that this can be a blessing to you today and receiving that. And so, I mean, I don't know, we could say in terms of introducing myself, hi friends, I'm Tiff or Tiffany, and I'm based here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I've been in the arena of speaking and coaching and training, really about helping people come home to themselves, to their truth, to universal truths, to empowerment, and to creating an income, a sustainable income, doing what they love. And so I never in a million years thought I would be doing the work I'm doing in the world, right? Like, this wasn't the plan for me. Like, oh, I see myself doing all these different things and stages and TV and all the things. I initially thought I was going to be a special needs teacher, and I worked in a couple of classrooms here in Utah where I'm based when I was going to school at university, and was the aide to the teacher. And I loved that. Always had a soft spot. Always, I think, been a teacher. I just thought it was going to be in a traditional classroom. And the way God has led my path and directed me, I went to work for Franklin Covey for many years and really blossomed in sales, even though, Alejandra, probably like you never in a million years thought you'd be selling anything. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Many of you listening can probably relate to that. It's like, wait, until you realize, wait, we're all in sales. Because life is sales.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Whether it's parenting and raising your kids, that's a sales process, whether politics in public life or politics in corporations, like just learning to connect and work with people and help solve problems and solutions. And so anyway, the point being, I found myself in this position selling coaching programs for Stephen Covey. And then I went on to work for a gentleman named Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad brand, and then Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and helped these men make millions and millions of dollars. And I was mentored in some great true teachings and principles. And it just exploded personal development in my life. And then about 15 years ago, I went out on my own, and I mostly coach women how to help grow their business. And then I'll speak at different conferences and events on sales and mindset. So that's kind of the shortest version possible of like, hey, who's Tiff? And I'm super passionate about joy and God and learning growth and relationships. I'm married to a sweet, great man that I just adore. And yeah, there's some beautiful things and there's some tough things, because as we were talking before we clicked record, is sometimes like just the real lifeness of that. We are spiritual beings, that is for sure, but we are definitely in human skin suits, having human experiences. And that is quite a roller coaster at times, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we love to be raw and vulnerable here. And I don't know if you've ever heard the show, but I actually do live coaching sessions with people
I love that.
here just so that they can experience a little bit of what the 180 method is and how it's different from traditional self-help. And you're kind of, you were tapping into something really beautiful, which is like spiritual beings in this human body suit while we are here, this human body skin, which I love the way in the Bible how Paul talks about it, which is the tent. It's our tent while we're here. And it's so true. So will you speak to more of like that rawness of what your spiritual walk has been? And then I want to talk about the sales stuff, but like, will you just, because I know we've talked a little bit about it, and I know that the people tuning into this episode and this podcast really are on a walk with the Lord and have experienced religious trauma or, have walked away from their faith in one way or another throughout their life for various reasons. And I definitely did not know God in the first, 16 years of being a life coach and in this self-help industry. And just my whole struggle and walk of really finding him and what he did within my life. So are you willing to like kind of share the rawness of what have been your difficulties in this skin suit, being a spiritual being in your walk with God?
My goodness. Well, to be mindful, I'm like, we could be here for like 3 hours.
I know.
Right? Just the depth. But I think, I think all of us can relate to that. Life looks different than the way we planned. Right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, once you hit, you probably can't hit 40 without having some kind of disruption or so forth. And that's like a lot of grace and extra time, because usually it's, somewhere in childhood, 20s, 30s, whatnot in life. But we all have the opportunity where life will rattle us, or we'll feel like we have sometimes the phrase, the rug pulled out from under us, or just even again, that life looks different than the way that we planned. We all get to intimately experience loss or change or challenge in some way. And sometimes it's loss of a person. Sometimes in my case, I felt a lot of a loss of a dream, that my life looked very different than the way that I planned. And when any human is in deep pain or they're in a lot of fear or struggle, there's different ways that we reach out to try to handle that. And, there's ways we can numb it out and so forth, but true healing and true peace comes from the one and only. And so it's like finding God. And I respect however people presence to that walk in their life and their own spiritual walk, and how that evolves. That's one of the things I feel like God has mentored me in, is that the acceptance and loving and being more loving like he is, that accepting where people are at and what path they're on. But we're all seekers. It's just some of us are actively seeking and plugging it in regularly. Some of us are doing more numbing out or noise and distraction in different ways, that we're grasping for control. One thing I've learned about humans is we're all control freaks. Right? Everyone guess what? P.S. Every one of you listening, you love control. And you're like, how does she know me so well, so fast? Like, what? And meaning simply preferences, or that things go the way you want them to go. And you will all get to learn surrender and trust and faith. I just find that the more I choose surrender, and not surrender from a wilted position, like, okay, fine, I'm defeated, but surrender and I fully trust that God has me and has my back and has the best of intentions for my life.
Yeah.
And coming into that partnership in a deeper way has been my life path, probably just like yours. And having more, faith has been a big part of my life for much of my life. But for me, it used to be in a much more structured religious path.
Yeah.
And while that is beautiful, and there's, for each, again, I'm never going to tell someone, hey, get on a path, get off a path. What I am going to say is find God, and God will guide you. And God led me out of that very specific path and into a deeper relationship with him.
Yes.
And so I have a deeper relationship with God versus a deeper relationship with religion. Mm-hmm. And for some, that might be sound like I'm splitting hairs, like, wait, what? Because I still love to go and worship and praise. And I think there's such value in community. And for my own path, I'm just simply honoring where God's been leading me. Yeah. And there's been a few times, even in the last year, I've said, do you want me to go back to that path, God? Like, my life's your life. And it's been a clear and peaceful and loving no, is we're expanding in our own way and in my own relationship with him.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes I find that in any religion, sometimes people are worshiping the religion versus really having worship with God or with the Lord, and in a way that, is beautiful and intimate. But again, however you all that are listening to this and catching this is coming into, like, just knowing you are so deeply loved and cherished. That's been a beautiful part of my own awakening in the last several years, is realizing how much love is there for me with God and receiving him, versus I've got to earn, hustle, perform, and crawl my way into, hopefully, gosh, I'm going to have God's grace and favor, versus receiving and accepting it.
That's so true, and such an important distinction, because so many women, high performing women like ourselves, who, go to that place of earning as a way to, like, I have to deserve it in some way, or have to hustle and perform to get to that place of being able to receive love. And really, I love that you're sharing this, because it's so true. There's another distinction between religion and relationship when it comes to God. And so many of us have fallen into that religious path, and it loses the connection, the purity of what God intended in our unity with him and our oneness with him, being made in his image. And love is obviously the thing that brings us back. And there's this fellowship. I've really been focusing on this word fellowship, because there is a surrender when you fellowship with someone, especially the Lord. And it's a two-way street in that fellowship. It can't be one way or the other. There's a communion that happens between us when there's that fellowship occurring. And the whole earning and hustling and performing just kind of falls away when there's that focus in on fellowship. At least for me, that's really what I've experienced and been attuned to in the last, several months. So, yeah.
Can I share one other thing that's
Absolutely,
just showing
please.
up on impressing my mind that, I thinking about for yourself, each one of you is, do I want control in my comfort zone, or do I want growth and expansion and what we might call the promised land in the language of scripture? And I love, love, love how rich the teaching is. Because here's the truth. I love my own home, my own, routines, comfort zones, things like this. But the reality of, like, if you want God's best for you in your life, it's going to require you at times absolutely to be outside that comfort zone. And so sometimes it's like, yes, I want these big dreams. I want these goals. I want to achieve these things. I want to double my sales. I want to make more impact. I want to write this book, or I want to build my dream home, or meet the love of my life, or all these things we want or desire. Yet they're going to require you to stretch and grow and leave what's familiar. And I think back to in the Old Testament, where you had these beautiful humans, the Israelites, in captivity for decades upon decades upon decades. And they were in a lot of, they were in bondage by Pharaoh. Bondage. Like, they had so little freedom, and they were so stuck, and they had all of this, and they prayed and pled with God, and please, please, please let us get free. And they're finally given freedom. And what happens? They don't get very far down the path till they're saying, hey, I want my comfort zone.
Yep.
This daily living into trust, surrender, and manna, because the Lord will provide. He always provides.
Always.
But if you're like, I've got to leave my comfort zone, even if my comfort zone stinks, it's like paycheck to paycheck. It's rough. It's struggle. but
Yeah.
I know it and it's familiar.
Yep.
And it just teaches us, because we might easily lean back and judge them and say, oh my gosh, how short-sighted they were. They had no faith. They it's like, how often can I be like that?
Absolutely.
Well, I'd rather have my stinky old comfort zone, and the Lord's delivering me into a promised land and with such blessing, but I have to leave what's familiar to lean into his greatest for me. You have to leave your familiar to lean into your greatest for you. And that requires you to embrace fear and discomfort to lean into. But one of the things I love to repattern for myself and my clients is, just because something's new doesn't mean it has to necessarily be scary. It just means it's new. It's unfamiliar to me. And becoming more familiar and leaning into, oh, I'm practicing trust, faith, surrender. I'm practicing leaving the familiar. I'm practicing moving on from my comfort zone to lean into what's best for me.
Yes.
But that is like that story in the Bible is applicable to all of us in present day, is how many of us are picking familiar spaces and experiences and incomes and jobs and relationships and habits. And in my case, a religion, even, because it was so safe and so familiar. And yet the Holy Spirit was like, I have more for you. Are you willing to leave what's familiar, even in the face? Because, I've had different friends and relationships put space and distance from me because I'm not exactly like them.
Right.
And that's a human thing, right? That's not just my case. It's kind of like, we're living this out in our country here in the United States, where it takes someone with a real rich mindset to be able to be like, oh, but we're watching politically, like, oh, you don't agree just like me, then you're out. Cancel culture. Yep. I'm cutting you out. Oh, you voted for Trump, you're done. Oh, you voted for Kamala, you're the worst. Oh my God, this judging of labeling, like, oh, if you're not just like me, again, people crave familiarity, and it's like, oh, you think different than me. And in my case, me moving on from and it's not like it's still part of my life, but it's just I've gotten deeper with Jesus than I am about the religion. And I'm not against the religion, and I sometimes still am part of it and in it, but it was like, are you willing to lean into a faith walk with God? And I'm living into where I feel he's led me. Man, there's definitely times I'm like, wait, I want to go back to Egypt. I want to know all the things. I want safety, certainty, inclusivity. I don't want to feel like I'm this like solo journeyer, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Yeah. But that is part of what is up for every human, is the willingness to lean in. And I'm going wherever God leads me. And if it leads me back into that space, I'll go there. But for now, it's like he's led me into a very intimate path.
Oh,
so here we are.
So here we are. And it's that the attuning and listening in to where he is leading you, and being willing to step outside of that comfort zone that you're talking about. And that's where that controlling piece comes in as well. Like, we want to maintain that level of control in the comfort. So we will control whatever in order to maintain that comfortable space, even though it's not comfortable at all. I mean, I see it with clients all the time, and not just clients, like everyone, as you're saying, like, we're all control freaks because
we all have preferences.
Yeah. That attachment to the comfort, and really comfort is all about safety, right? Like, we're literally programmed to be asking, am I safe? Am I safe? And I think, I know that comes back to Adam and Eve, right? Like, right from the beginning, we were not meant to be separate from God, but through sin, which I use the acronym of selfish, independent nature, through sin, we separated from him. And so our beingness is constantly in that longing for him, that fellowship with him, because that's how we were designed to be. Oh, but that the lack of, or the missing of our wholeness with him, that's where I feel like unsafety comes from, and why we're so attached to the comfortability of circumstantial things. that like, money or our income and relationship, something in our life that makes us feel better, because it creates that false sense of safety, but it's never enough, which is why we keep falling back to, no, but I have to stay here because I need more of this, because it's literally the only way in which ego that edges God out knows how to feel that safety part. And you're so right that like, it's almost like that consciousness of being able to recognize, like, I'm in the desert. Can I continue to surrender and trust? Because I don't feel like those are separate things. They're one and the same. You cannot have one without the other, which leads to also a deep belief of like believing that he is leading you in this promised land, like you were saying. But to continue to choose to surrender and trust versus, no, I need that control out of the sense of I need to be safe. It just gets messy.
Yeah, it's so true. There's a dear friend of mine, Coot Blackson. He has a book called The Magic of Surrender. And I've known him for 10 plus years. And I love that book. It's a great resource, The Magic of Surrender. Very spiritually nourishing and based. And what he teaches is that there is freedom in surrender. And that what if in moving into surrender, it's not about giving up, it's about gaining or opening to more. And he has this simple equation, these two equations in his book. And the first one says, this simple equation says, surrender plus trust equals magic. And then the opposite is control plus resistance equals suffering.
Yep.
And again, like coming back to these spiritual truths. And when you surrender again, can feel really like, okay, fine. I feel defeated. I feel wilted. This isn't happening. I feel sadness and defeat from this, versus a trust. When you put trust with surrender, like God has my back. Everything is working together for my good. I don't know how. It's just like Joseph with his own family, his own brothers sold him, and let go of him, that abandonment. And then the way that the Lord meant that for good, and the way that he utilized even this deepest heartache and hardship, for good. It's like, and trusting. But sometimes we are in the desert, we are in the wilderness, or we are in the pit, and it's like, oh my goodness. And sometimes even when we're not in the heaviest, sometimes some of you listening right now are in a really heavy season. Some of you are in a phenomenal, just like everything's blooming and bright. And many of you are somewhere in between where there's absolutely some bright, brilliant, beautiful blessings, things you're excited about. And then there's some tough stuff or things that are holding you, or your own anxieties, your own fears, right? Like you said something, Alejandra, that's so right, is your brain is wired to keep you safe. I mean, that's literally how your humanness is built, is for safety, for survival. And therefore, when fear is regularly up, it's like, what's fear? Well, it's an illusion. How often does the Bible say fear not? It's an illusion. But why is it doing that? It's trying to keep you safe. Safe from what? From pain. Okay. And how do we heal that? And it's like, okay, coming back into trust and faith and integration. But you're not wrong for any of you feeling fears, for feeling anxieties.
No.
This is part of the humanness. But we get to practice because our brain is not, literally your neural net is not wired that way.
Yeah.
We practice building muscles of faith. We practice building muscles of surrender, faith, and trust. We practice coming into seeing and appreciating and gratitude. Like our brain, again, is not wired. When I teach my gratitude series every November, I've been doing that for 13 years now. And it's like every November we come into practices of gratitude, right? And thankfulness. And again, that's also a form of trust.
Yeah.
If I'm leaning into a grateful state, but I have to, what's important for y'all to know is if you've ever felt the frustration of like, why am I still navigating some of these fears, these anxieties? Because we practice. We practice coming into trust. We practice coming home to faith and to truth. We practice making that journey internally on a daily basis. It's like the rent is due every day, that we nourish those muscles of trust. And then, yes, they can become more strong in muscle memory, where you don't have to work sometimes as hard. But like anything you want to be vibrantly alive, it has to be nourished. And that way it's like on a regular basis, we're practicing or learning. And again, I just love that equation that surrender plus trust equals magic. And you could also say surrender plus trust equals you're going to be more in the flow with God.
Yeah.
because that is like, oh, it's what it's activating. And on the flip side, control plus resistance equals suffering.
Yeah.
And when I'm in high control or resisting what is, and this, I don't love this. I'm gripping, I'm white knuckling it. I don't like this, financial thing or this relationship issue or political thing or this thing or that thing or whatever people are. I don't. And it's like, okay, God, I trust you. Okay, God, I trust you. Okay, I trust you. I don't have to understand it all. I just have to have daily, I love, love, love that daily manna.
Yeah. Practice. And,
But P.S., you type A's like her and I that just love to plan and like, I'm going to plan and make all this stuff happen. Good luck.
Exactly.
It's like, well, that's fun. Good luck.
I know. Let me know how that goes. Kind of thing.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah. And it's like, there is one of my mentors would say this. He would say, in response to that conversation is, well, do we make plans? Do we make visions? Do we make vision boards and goals? And like, do we have plans and move things? Or do we just have to just navigate what is and be reactive all day? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
And one of the ways my mentor would sum it up, Jack Canfield, he's been one of my mentors in my life path. He would say this, he would say, have high intention and low attachment. Mm-hmm. And I always love that reminder, high intention, like get intentional about what your circle of influence, as Covey would teach, your circle of influence versus your circle of concern. Because often when we're in fear and stress and angst, we're living in our circles of concern versus my circle of influence is how do I treat my body? I prioritize my rest, what I'm reading and listening to, hiring Alejandra to help me become stronger in myself and in my skills and tools in the 180 method. I'm going to show up and nourish my network. I'm going to show up and add value. I'm going to get connected to God early in the day. I'm going to read. I'm going to pray. I'm going to exercise. Like you can be mindful of high intention of like what I want to create. What do I want to be about? Your visioning, because that's so powerful. Yet also then low attachment, or in other words, trust, surrender to how does this have to happen right now, right this way?
Yes.
And I love that. High intention, low attachment, because you still be intentional. We don't just like, well, I'll just sit on the couch and eat chips. And when God wants to put something on my porch, he will, and I'll just answer the door and that's how it'll work. No,
that's
high intention.
Yeah.
But I also have a more open, it's practicing because I get everything I'm saying, PS, is not like, oh, I've mastered this.
Right.
Here's what I'm practicing as a human, to be connected to God, to be in the flow, to be in a more peaceful experience and also a more vibrant state of living is okay. These are the things I get to practice regularly. Yeah. And sometimes I'm practicing like this. Okay, I'm trying. And sometimes I'm in it. Okay. Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah.
So here we are.
I love that. Here we are. Because surrender, even though it's stated in a way of like it's a one and done kind of thing, it's not. It's a surrendering. Like what you're talking about is the practice of, and the ing. Like that's why, any client that I work with or what we talk about in the 180 isn't about getting healed. Like it's not healed. It's healing. Because we're, going back to the beginning of our conversation, we're spiritual beings in a human skin sack, like it's a healing and there's never an ending to that. So surrender is the same thing in this practice you're talking about. It's a surrendering that is a continuous journey, and each level has a depth of growth and a more intimate connection with God. If you're willing to continue being open to that and doing the practice as you're speaking.
Thank you for anchoring that, because it's so true. It's like we're growing, healing, surrendering. Yeah. It's just like I did a workout this morning as part of my own try to, put myself into a deposit into me, get myself and my energy aligned so I show up more for you and my client that I have the next top of the hour and these things that I'm up to. Is like, okay, I'm going to influence that. But that's like, it's a practice, right? It's like you get on the yoga mat or you do your workout, or this work we're talking about is really, and when I mentally moved more so into that, and again, keep practicing even that mindset and that awareness and that soul awareness is, we're a work in progress.
Yeah.
And we're practicing healing, like you said, surrendering is we're coming home to work on it. We got to work on it.
Which is a beautiful thing. Like,
yes,
that growth is incredible. I do want to connect this to sales because so much of what you do, I mean, this woman is incredible in teaching how to be able to sell and come home to yourself. And like you were saying, like, we're all salespeople. Everyone is in selling. So
it's like what we're trying to influence, right?
Exactly. So I know that might seem like a big jump, but I'm curious how you really bring this into what you teach these women around sales.
Yes. Well, we don't have time for a 3-hour workshop to teach all the influences of this, but where it directly connects is ask yourself this. Can you control sales? Nope.
No.
I don't control my sales. You don't control your sales. Now we influence sales, right? And there's different ways to increase your influence with sales. And there's a mindset to that, a skill set and so forth. But a lot of it is you only control how you show up. But to show up, that's the important thing. So sometimes I'll say that statement, you can only control how you show up in any relationship, online, in person, in your business. You get to control how you show up. But the important thing is to show up.
Yeah.
And one of the equations, I just spoke at an event in Newport Beach this last weekend and was with this room of just beautiful humans. And I was sharing this equation with them that I want to share here is when you focus on making an impact, you grow your influence. And when you grow your influence, you also influence then your income or your sales, in other words. But focus on making impact is how can I be a blessing to more people's lives? That mission, that intention, and showing up to serve, right? Because really, when you think about being in sales, all a sale is an exchange of value. Tony Robbins would say dollars follow value. And so to choose and to say, I'm going to be a value creator. I'm going to use my influence, my intention that I want to add value to more people's lives through my products, through my services, through my platform, whatever you're up to in the world, whether you're selling homes, you're selling health and wellness products, you're selling coaching or support services, or you're in tech or education, you're nonprofit, for-profit, you're all in sales and you're all in the people business. And really the heartbeat of being great in sales is you focus on being a great connector. I like to say your connection equals your currency and your capacity of just like how we are on this show right now is through a connection.
Yeah.
And we met years ago through another connection, right? As we're all in this how I was in that room and hired to speak and paid to speak at that event was through a relationship that connected me to the person putting that event together and just growing relationships and nourishing and me sharing. And your podcast is a form of adding value to people's lives. Your social media, your newsletters, you might sample physical products for some of you, but it's just choosing in and realizing that while you can't control sales, right? You can't. And that's part of this trust and surrender, but you can get very intentional about who you're going to be in the marketplace, how you show up and to show up and add value to make impact is the heartbeat. Because most people, when I say, they tell me, and often, sales, and if I was with a live audience with some of you right now, I'd say, tell me about what it is that you sell and your belief in what you sell. How many of you would say, where would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 feels really good and solid. 1 feels really challenged. Where would you rate yourself on your confidence level in your product or service? And the majority of the time, you're going to hear 9s and 10s, like really strong. I believe in what I sell, or they wouldn't be selling it, right?
Right.
They wouldn't be doing it. They wouldn't be growing this business or doing the thing they're doing. They're like, I really believe in this. And then I'll ask them to evaluate how confident they feel in their capacity to sell with sales or selling. And 99% of the time, people have a gap there. They go from being a 10 to then like a 6 with their sales skills. And they're like, or a 5 or a 4, and sometimes higher, 7 or an 8, but there's always some kind of gap. And I say, get curious about the gap. And usually what's in the gap is a story, is fear, is a belief that, ooh, what does it mean to be, I'm in sales. I might be salesy. I might be slimy. I remember my dad when I was young saying, oh my gosh, those people only care about making money and how gross that is, or this or that, or you're a used car salesperson, or, all of this old antiquated idea, because really, when you're great at sales, you're really great at relationships.
Oh, so true.
That is the reality, is if you are great sustainably at sales, you're great at relationships. You're great at helping people feel seen and valued. You're great at asking good questions. You're good at being a solutions provider. You're helping people get their needs met, their dreams activated. When you're great at sales, that's what it really means. But we have old beliefs and fears of, ooh, what are people going to think of me? If I call Alejandra and say, hey, I love this product, I'd love to send you a sample, or I want you to try it out, or hey, I want you to come to my event or my seminar or whatever, what's she going to think of me? Is she going to think I'm just, quote, salesy? Because we all have mindset as well as skill that lives in that gap. And so this is what I'm passionate about, is helping people come into ownership around their gifts. Because whatever it is you're selling, my friend, there's a gift of that way that thing you do adds value, contributes, or blesses the lives of someone else. Right? At some level, whether you are selling cars, I need a car to help my life be easier, to get around and to make things happen. Or you're selling furniture or design, or you're selling, coaching and support and healing and like the deep work you're up to in the world. Like, what a blessing your work is.
Yes.
And so the willingness to like come into ownership of, I'm in ownership of these gifts, and I'm going to focus on making more impact. I'm going to work on being more intentional at connecting. I'm going to work at being more intentional about the questions I'm asking, because being great at sales, the skill side is learning to ask good questions, and questions that there's questions that move people emotionally, and there's questions that move people logically in a decisiveness, right? But to move into, I love from my Covey days, he would say this: diagnose, then prescribe. Yeah. In terms of asking good questions, right? To be more diagnostic, or what we might call consultative selling. I just really look at you're simply connecting, and you're seeking to know their needs, know their pain, know their desires, and to help them get their needs met, right? That's on the skill side. But from the heart and the soul intention that all of you can come into today is to really deepen your connection to your purpose of why you're in the business you're in and the impact you want to make. And again, when you focus on making an impact, you naturally grow your influence, which naturally grows your income. They're all interconnected. And so rather than focusing just on how do I make more sales, focus on how do I add more value? How do I make more impact? How do I help more people with what their hearts desires, their needs, what they're up to in the world? And when you just live, and again, these are practices, which I love, we've already established. It's like, I'm not mentally always in that space. I regularly practice these things of nourishing my relationships, helping people feel seen, practicing presence, practicing asking better questions, practicing the small little things that help nourish a friendship, a sweetheart, a stranger, like being that. I get to practice being that regularly, as do all of us. Yeah. Because there's plenty of times I still, I can get hangry, I can get tired, I can get annoyed by someone and like, oh my gosh, I'm not regularly thinking and feeling saintly because I'm still human and I get to practice. But man, you know it when you're living that, don't you? Oh, you sure feel it. You're like, literally you have a glow because you're like, your mind and your heart and your soul is like, I'm coming from a giving place. And it's like, how can I be and how can I show up to serve and add more value? And there's such a glow when you're living that. And then it's this magnetism of more opportunities. Anything you want to add to that? Because I know you're living that and practicing living into that, but anything you want to add to that?
I feel like the beauty in it is exactly what you're saying. There's an attachment. There can be the intention. That's often how I look at things, is like, it's the intention, but if I am attached in any way, that's when my controlling nature is coming out. And so it has to be focused in on what is the actual intention and purpose of why I'm even getting on a sales call, let's say, or why I'm making a connection with this person that wants me to speak at their event, or even why I'm at lunch. I can just be having lunch with someone. And actually happened the other day. I was having coffee with a woman, and then lo and behold, I'm actually in a sales conversation, but it didn't feel like that because of the impact and the focus and the value and the purpose of intention of just connecting and living into God's purpose for me is really where. And I love that you're so firmly planted in that. And you can see it and you can hear it in the way in which you're delivering it, Tiffany. And I know that's why so many women have been so successful in learning from you, because that's exactly what it's about. It's not about the dollar. It's not about, that's just a like result of, a benefit of, but really it's all about the intention. And yeah, I'm great at sales, but it's not sales I'm great at. I'm great at connection and relationship and engaging with people. That's the skill to practice.
It's so true. And I think when you have more of that mindset, you know, it frees you up from all the fears of selling.
Oh, yeah.
And there's still times where you can lean into is like your willingness to ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're like, well, I'm really good at dropping hints, right? Like I'm sharing these gems, but also ask people to join you on your journey. Ask them into, invite, right? It's an invitation like, hey, like when you're inviting someone to join you to coach with you personally or to join your coaches group, it's simply an invitation of if this is an alignment for them, but I want to invite you to participate in something that up levels you.
Yeah.
You know, and the invitation, but we can all, like even myself, as much as I've learned this, practice it, teach it, there's even times where like, ooh, I feel my own stretch. Like even last night on my Instagram stories, I'd shared a little thing about this event that I was just at and speaking. And I love to help co-create just like beautiful events and experiences. And so I just put it on my stories for those of you who are planning an event later into this year or even into next. And I'd love to explore that with you. But I watched myself post it and I felt my own little feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, because it's like it's a putting myself out there like, hey, if you want to, but it's like, no, I do want that. And I do want to help create that for them. And I love doing it. And so even if that little voice though, that's like, ooh, what are people going to think? It's like, I see you. I see you. Yep. And I'm still that willingness to ask and put yourself out there, knowing what my intention is.
Absolutely.
And so you still, at times, it's okay to have fear and nerves come up. It's okay in our daily walk that we sometimes still wish, gosh, I maybe want to go back to Egypt because this is a little uncomfortable. Like, ooh, I'm working on this. I'm putting myself out there. I'm trying this new thing. I'm, whatever it might be for us. It's okay. You are going to have the fears and the nerves come up. That isn't abnormal. It is very normal.
Very normal.
Getting more intentional and conscious about how do I respond? Because for 2 seconds, I thought, oh, I'm going to delete that story because I felt the discomfort rise. Because again, what am I doing? I'm doing what I'm coaching other people to do. Put yourself out there. Yeah. Share your value and things like that. And every so often make an ask and put it out there. Make it known what your intention is. And it's like, oh, okay. I can feel my own little like, ooh, when I push into my own edges of I'm putting myself out there. Because for sure, if someone wants to text me, email me, DM me and say, we'd love to explore having you come to our conference, how fun that is. It's always easy to respond to that. But are we willing to also ask for what we want?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it takes, sometimes I can feel a little like, ooh, my own edge on like, ooh, there's the nerves. Yep. And we're going to do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. It's right. That common phrase. There's so much gem in that. Or I like to say, do it scared. Sometimes you are scared.
Yeah. Well, and that comes back to what we were talking about originally and how you were saying, like the trust, the surrender, the releasing of control and actually practicing. So I feel like that ties that up beautifully, Tiffany, because that's exactly, and thank you for sharing that. Because, you guys know who watch the pod. I share a lot on this podcast during solo episodes and just like, probably sometimes they're like, I didn't need to know that, Alondra. But at the same time, it makes it very real of like, no, this is not master life coach. No, I'm a human being just as much as you are, and the pitfalls. And I love when people are willing to open up and share the raw vulnerabilities, because that actually creates more connection than anything else. And you're so right. Like that edge is, but that's when practicing surrender and trust comes into play anyways. So,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Funny. We're funny.
We're funny humans, aren't we? But I just love this real talk and this conversation. And again, my biggest takeaway from my hope that you all are hearing is what something Alejandra was talking about. And it's just what we're both anchoring for you is this aspect of practicing.
Yeah.
But to practice, to be in the arena, right? I just read this quote yesterday, The Man in the Arena by Theodore Roosevelt, right? It's like the willingness to try and to practice and to put yourselves in this. And, you know, I love, like you, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, I love listening to nourishing podcasts and reading great books and things of that nature, and keep doing those things because they nourish you. And also be willing to say, okay, what action can I take today that helps me stretch, maybe outside that comfort zone? What helps me lean in? What helps me move my dreams, my goals, my faith forward? And to be a practicer, because that is where the real magic happens, is when we're practicing living these principles we're talking about.
That's awesome. The practicer, like embody the practicer.
Yeah. Let's be a practicer.
That's right. So I do often like to leave our audience and those tuning in with like a question for the week that is self-reflective and is connected to the conversation we had today. So what question would you want to offer up and invite our audience listeners to focus in on for the week?
Mm-hmm. Can I have two?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first one, I'm just going to say what we were just saying is, where can I practice living into this week? You know, can being not just hearing only, but being a doer of what I'm hearing, and like, how can I practice this and lean in and take those actions? And secondly, one of my questions I really love to ask, especially when either I'm wanting to see more things open for me, and or I'm in a funk, or I'm kind of in my own stinky stuff.
Yeah.
I love to ask the question, you know, who can I serve today? And literally that will sometimes be part of in my own prayer life. It's not something I do every day. Again, I'm practicing that, but I know that as an anchor question. Who can I serve today? Who can I serve today? Guide me. Number one, it shifts some of that energy of opening back into contribution, light, giving, God, generosity. And it also can shift off some of my own stuff that might be, you know, trying to get in there and create stuff and things like that. Or as well as it's an expansive question that puts me more open and aware and will put me in the flow of all the good. Yeah. So I really do love to come home to that many, many times for both personal, sometimes quote, selfish reasons, like, hey, I want to help get out of this funk. But it also for just proactive, like, I want to expand. I want to connect. I want to grow. And that question, it's one of the fastest prayers to get answered. If you actually pause, not just put it out there, but pause, show me, God, who can I serve today? And I get an image, I get a person will come to mind. And whether that's to pray for them, to reach out to them, you know, to do some kindness. Sometimes I get a very specific person or image. Sometimes I don't. And somewhere in the day, I'll see it show up and I'll be like, oh, okay, this is it. This is the assignment for the day. And most often it's little things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bigger thing, but like most things, those little things, God is in the details. It's like, oh, a kind word that you say, or this thing that you do, or I'm just thinking of you, and you send off that text, that kind of thing.
Love both those questions.
Yeah.
Where can I practice leaning into, and the conversation that we had today? Where can I practice, and who can I serve? I mean, amazing. Really great questions to focus in on. So thank you so much for being here and just sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a joy to be with you and your vibrant light and all the good that you're creating. Thank you so much, sis.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. All right, everyone. I know that this was a rich conversation. If there's anyone in your life that you feel could benefit from practicing in this conversation around surrendering and trust and connection, I think that was the third piece of what we really brought into the conversation here. Please share that with them. And as always, I love you. I pray for you. And I know that you have incredible things that are coming your way when you decide to heal. So I will see you on the next episode. Until then.